Hello everyone, welcome again. Well, in this video we are going to see how you can write the JUnit for a Java application. So for that I am going to take the help of this swing application. So inside this application, if I click on generate ID, it is going to generate a random ID for me on providing this information, that is username, country and address. If I click on submit, all this information will be inserted into a database. So this is the table which will store all those information, and if I click on clear, it is going to just reset all the component. In order to view what are the entry which is inserted inside the table, just click on view button. So it is going to launch one more window which will list down all the entry which is present inside the table. So we are going to see how you can write the JUnit for this swing application. So before that, let us discuss some concept of reflection API, because I am going to take the help of reflection API for writing the JUnit test cases. So inside my JUnit project, I am going to add class called reflection class, and it will be inside reflection com.reflection package. So inside this class I will have data member with all access level. So int id equal to 0 means this will be a default access level. Private string private underscore name. Similarly, protected string underscore name and public string public underscore name. And also I will have getter and setter method for this data member. Now I'm going to change the access level of getter and setter based on the access level of data member. So for ID we have default access level, so I'll make it default. For private underscore name I have access level as private, so this will be private, and similarly protected. Okay, and for the public data member I have public getter and setter. So now I will add one more class inside my project. Let me call it as test reflection, and this will be inside com.test package. So in order to access the method and member variable of the reflection class, one way around is to create the object. So reflection class object equal to new reflection, and using this object I can directly access the public data member and method. So object dot set public underscore name, and I can retrieve the value using getter method. Getter method. So if I run it, the setter method will set the value and getter method will retrieve the public data member value. Now similarly I can directly call the public data member by object dot the data member. But when it comes to the default private protected, you cannot access those directly with the object. So here comes the concept of reflection. Now using the reflection, you can access any data member and method with any access level inside the class. So usually the reflection API is used to change the runtime behavior of the class. So for that we need to follow certain step to use the reflection API. So first of all, you need to load this class inside the memory before using the reflection API. So for loading the class, I will use class dot for name, and here I need to specify the name of the class along with the package which I want to load. So this will be com.reflection dot class name. Now this method is going to return me an instance of type class. So class equal to this, because we are going to use this instance to create an object of reflection class. Okay, so this will be your step 1 to load the class into the memory. Now step 2 is to create the new instance of this reflection class. So object or cls dot new instance, and it is going to create a object for me. Obj. Okay, now once I'm done with loading the class inside the memory, once I'm done with getting the object of that class, now using this object you can call any method which is present inside the your reflection class. So we'll start with the private method, because those are the most restrictive method you have in your classes. So in order to call a private method, first of all you need to call a method inside the class, that is get declare method. Okay, so using this you are telling that which method I'm going to invoke with the help of reflection API. So here you need to specify the method name. So I'm going to call set private underscore name, and parameter type. So parameter type represent that what kind of parameter this particular method is taking. So in our case, set private underscore name method is taking the parameter type string. So this will be your string dot class. Okay, if your class is not taking, sorry, if your method is not taking any parameter, this will be your none. And if your method is taking multiple parameter, so you need to specify comma and the next type of parameter, so integer dot class. And if your method is taking any primitive data type as a parameter, so directly int dot class. So you need to use this kind of mechanism to specify what kind of parameter this particular method will take. So for our use we are going to take the help of string dot class, because our method is taking only single parameter, and this is going to again throw me a checked exception. So once this is done, so automatically this get declare method will going to return me reference to method class. Now using this particular method object, I am going to invoke this set private, which is a private method of reflection class. So for invoking, set underscore private dot invoke. Now invoke will take two arguments. First is the object, so object of the reflection class, which is this, so object, an argument, so the value of the argument which you want to supply. So here let's say I want to supply private data member. Okay, and again it is going to throw me a checked exception. So let me run this program. So if you look at the console, we are getting an exception saying that this is the method which we are trying to invoke is a private, and you cannot access that. To overcome this problem, before calling the invoke method, you need to use a method called set access level, and you need to make it true. So what this method will do at the runtime, it will just make that private method to be a public method, so that it can directly be invoked with the help of invoke method. So during the runtime, it will just explicitly change a private method to behave like a public method. So now if I run it, so now we have set so we are not getting any exception. So now once we are done with the setting, let me call the getter method to retrieve the data. So again, for calling the getter method, so after this will be your step 3 to specify the method which you want to invoke, and this is very important, step 4, because if you don't specify the access level as true, so it is going to throw me a exception. Now once this is done, I am going to call a getter method to retrieve or to check whether we are able to set the value of private data member or not. So again, get declare method, specify the method name, that is get private, and this method is not going to take any argument, so this will be your null. And again, this is going to return me an object of method class, so method get underscore private. Okay, again I need to set the access level, so set accessible true, and I'm going to call get underscore private dot invoke object, and the argument will be null. So now if I run it, okay, I need to use with sysio. Private data. So if I run it, run as Java application, so as you can see that it is coming from our getter method, which is a private method, and using the setter method we are invoking a private method to set the value. So let me make it value, run as. So as you can see that with the help of reflection API, we are able to access the private method, both getter and setter. Now similarly you can do for the protected and default, so I'm going to tell you about how you can do for the protected. So method setter set underscore protected, and again class instance dot get declare method name of protected method, so set protected underscore name, parameter value will be string dot class, set underscore protected dot set accessible is equal to true, and set underscore protected dot invoke object, and argument will be protected data member. And similarly I will do for get protected underscore name, so this will be your, and the argument will be null, this will be your get, this will be a null, and as it is returning a string, so I need to use this IO. Okay, so let me rerun it again. So private data member, protected data member. Okay, now as I told you, using the reflection you can access a method or data member of any access level inside the class. So first let me show you how you can access the public. Anyway, you can access public with the object, but using the reflection also you can access the public method, and we will see how you can access the how you can directly access the data member which is present inside the class. So in order to access, again the same code, or let me rewrite it again. So in order to access the public method, so instead of get declare method, I'm going to use the get method. So when you call the get method, by default it assumes that whatever the method name you are specifying over here is a public method. Okay, so here it will be your set public name. So the only difference here is that I'm using get method instead of get get declare method, and parameter is again string dot class, and here you don't need to set the access level. So method get set underscore public. So as it's a public method and it does not have any restriction, so we no need to call this accessible method, so you can directly invoke. So set underscore public dot invoke object, and argument will be public data member, and similarly I'm going to do for the getter method. So this will be your get it will be null, and this will be also null, and here I'm going to put a sys out. So let me run this. Okay, this will be your get public method. So as you can see, that public data member. Okay, now so far we have seen that you can access the any private default protected method. Now I'm going to show you how you can access the private data member directly. So here just before the setting of the private, I'm going to comment out this piece of code. Okay, so here I'm just invoking a setter method which will set the value of private data member, and I'm going to directly print that value using the private data member. So in order to access a variable, you need to use the field. So instead of this get declare method, you need to use get field. So dot get declare field. Okay, so as it's a private, so just like we did for the private method get declare method, in order to access the member, I'm going to use a get declared field and specify the name of, let's say, this. So specify the name of data member which you want to access. Again it is going to throw me a checked exception, so and this is going to return me a reference to a field. Field private underscore name. Okay, now as it's a private, so again I need to set the access level accessible true, and now you can directly sys out value. private underscore name dot get and the object. So object is the same which we have constructed using the new instance. So if I run it, so as you can see that private data member hyphen 1. So this value we are setting through a private setter method, and we are directly accessing the private value of the private data member. So in this manner, with the help of reflection API, you can access any method, any data member which is present inside a class at any access level. So we are going to see how you can use the reflection API for writing the JUnit. So that's all for this video, and thanks for watching.